then we can take a roll call and we can just start the meeting. So good morning. As chair of the Exeter, New Hampshire Communications Advisory Committee, I am declaring that an emergency exists, and I'm invoking the provisions of RSA 91A2(3)(b). Federal, state, and local officials have determined that gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community in its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. In concurring with their determination, I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, which are vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of its body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and a quorum apply. I'll start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance, and when each member states their name, if they could also please state whether there's anyone in the room with them during this meeting. I can start with myself. My name is Connor Berry. I'm present, and there's no one else in the room with me this morning. Bob Glowacki.
Bob Glowacki, Exeter TV. I'm in our offices, and I am alone.
Okay. And Selectman Darrell Brown.
Darrell Brown, present, and no one else is here.
Okay. And just for the record, board member Lindsay Sonnet is not present. Nina Braun is not present. And Martha McEntee is also not present. So with that, I don't know if that, I heard a little ping.
Yep,
I don't know.
Nina's on.
Oh, great. Good morning, Nina.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. And I'm sorry again about the last minute change of schedule from last week's meeting.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
It occurred to me that, we're obligated to post the meeting agenda publicly at least 5 days before the meeting. And when I checked on Monday, the day before the meeting, nothing had been posted yet. So I just wanted to make sure we're not getting ourselves in hot water.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so Nina, you're present this morning. If you could just state whether you're alone in the room.
I am. I'm Nina Braun, okay. And I'm alone in the room.
All right, excellent. So Lindsay, I just wanted to let you know, Nina, that Lindsay Sonnet is one of our committee members, and she emailed me a few minutes ago stating that she won't be on this morning. But it's good to have you. And I had distributed the meeting minutes from the July 28th meeting from this year. I'm not sure how formal we have to be about it. We had gotten some advice from the town manager, Russ Dean, who stated that, yes, you do need minutes of meetings, but they can be in draft form, and you just kind of have to post them. I'm not even sure if we necessarily have to vote on them, but if you had any objection to the meeting minutes, I'm not sure if you were at the July 28th meeting.
I wasn't,
Okay.
But I looked them over and I have no objections.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I will send those along to Pam McElroy, and she can post them in whatever form she feels is most appropriate. So Bob had been working on a draft of the town communications survey. And Nina, I appreciate that you had sent Bob some additional material. I know that Bob was working on trying to incorporate that into the working draft. Bob, the draft you had sent me, this might have been late last week. I looked it over. I will say I'm very impressed with the status of it. I think it's in great shape. I'm not saying it doesn't need any improvement. We're open to other suggestions, but I think it looks really good. It incorporates some of the psychographic questions to help further identify the survey taker's profile. And then I think, gives some really good, substantive questions. And if the survey taker really does spend some time answering those questions, I really do feel like we'll have some good insights, some good data points. Bob, I think a few meetings ago you were able to share your screen and kind of walk us.
Yep, I could get that ready and try and pull that up.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that would be great. So we can do that. And I guess I wanted to bring up something. I was listening online to the select board meeting last night and trying to internalize some of the public comments, particularly related to the potential mask requirement ordinance. And it maybe came up only once, potentially with a couple of different speakers, that residents had concerns that, different ordinances or resolutions or topics that were being considered by the select board maybe weren't being publicly advertised as well as they should be, that, relevant stakeholders who should be brought in to give testimony or public comment or suggestions or input, that they weren't getting the information that they need. So I don't know. I wanted to bring that up maybe under the other business section this morning. I didn't know if it's something that we wanted to include in the survey. Something to the effect of, do you feel that, relevant stakeholders are being properly notified of, topics being brought before the select board? I mean, Selectman Brown, you were in the meeting last night. I don't know if you got a different sense of that.
There definitely was a pressing of the committee to provide a straight line through the website or whatever means to provide information that may be in a shorter span. So sort of again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but to put the approach we've been taking is very thorough and very it'll be very research based. But the mission last night was sort of can the committee press forward on things that would fit these times and push information to the people, because if anything, last night what we saw was a sound part of the concern from citizens was like where, what, who, how, I think we're pursuing all due diligence on for normal times, and last night was definitely a wake up call to that potentially the communications committee is a key to just to a whole lot of levels, but I think we got marching orders to do something sooner.
Yeah.
Just a little quick side comment on that. I think we oftentimes too, in doing all these, we think, and we should think about the website and the digital means, but getting back to basics, like now that we don't even have, well, we never had, right? Because it was privately owned, but the kiosk or the, for the IOCA messaging board that we have in town is the one outside the gazebo. So getting back to those sort of basics of just, and sometimes a board will be put up, an electronic board, say for elections and or the farmers market announcements and things like that. But I think also in communications, we should think about just basic means, let's what can the town purchase? What can we, get moving on to make a difference? Doing a survey is great, but in the meantime, what's really happening? I mean, we're going to get these surveys results, and then what? I think we really need to start formulating a plan to go along with the survey results, and prior to the results coming back, start formulating that plan and getting things going, getting things moving.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I completely agree, and I think that's, your point is duly noted that, there probably is more that can be even done now. And I know, for instance, I thought it would be an interesting test case last night. The Department of Public Works, the director of the Department of Public Works recommended, based on data, recent data, that the water use restrictions in town be elevated from what's called level 2 to level 4. Now that's a big deal because it went from, kind of moderate water use restrictions on, let's say, like outdoor watering of, private homes, landscaping, to level 4, which is an outright ban that no one is allowed to water outside their home. So I think that's like, it's a fairly significant announcement. So I thought it would be interesting to see, they ended the discussion by saying, okay, we'll update our website. The DPW, if you have a social media page, if you could please update that. They said, yes, sure. So I think it would just be an interesting test case for us to see like the full life cycle of an announcement, that something changes, it has a significant impact on the community. How is it being communicated out? And is that effective? Is the information getting to people? And I think some of the water use restrictions or water bans do go up on the electronic signs. Like I know coming into town from Stratham on Portsmouth Ave, right where the Hannafords is, I know there's sometimes a big electronic board there. Yeah. I think it's previously has said something about a water ban or something about elections. How many of those electronic signs does the town have? Bob, or is it just the one or is it multiple? I actually don't know.
I'm not exactly sure. I think that's a touch base with DPW. I know we have several, and they're, often used for different things. I think right now there's a few out for social distancing messaging. There's one over by the Fire Museum, Senior Center area over there. I think there was one next to Swayze Parkway for quite a while. So those do get used often. I will say, like, while we don't have, an IOCA sign to put up, it is put out, in a physical form in a few places. It's just like the website and everything else. It's always put out there. And then it's when there's a big ticket item that people say, hey, I didn't hear about this. But it was, it was on the website. It was on all the videos from previous meetings where it was mentioned for probably the last couple weeks or month. And, it's posted in the town office, probably outside the town hall on the notice boards that are there. But yeah, and I had a phone call with someone on that topic of like, oh, how do we know? Like, people probably don't know about this. I think it was in the paper, I believe, but also, I took that feedback and we posted the agenda on Facebook. And, I think maybe someone joined from that to the Zoom meeting or something. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking into how we can do it. But also keeping in mind all the stuff that we already do that people don't take the time to look into. I know it's, not everyone has the time to watch 3 or 4 hours of select board meetings every 2 weeks. But maybe there's something else we can do in there. I think I guess the danger in highlighting one issue over another is like, who's going to be picking like, hey, everybody come to the meeting for this issue. We want your input. I don't think maybe the select board can put some directives like, hey, this is something we want to get out there, or because then, if it's, one town staff member, it's whatever their discretion is for what is, what should we try and get people in there to talk about. And then we'll get accused for, not highlighting one issue over another. So that's something to think about as well, the policy of how that could all work.
I think with going on that too, that's some good points. Also, what's our internal communication look like? Like, what are committees? We're not obviously the only committee, but how does the committee then determine, okay, we want this message to get out there, or this is an important issue, we're voting on this, or whatever we're doing at our next meeting, we'd like it to get out there. We submit it to the select board, or, what's the process? And then the select board is responsible for letting us, getting that information out there. Like, there's just no process in place. And that's, I think, was a lot of frustration with the sustainability committee too, is that, things happen and we're not even told, and things that are going on at select board meetings, for instance, and it's pertinent to our committee that we attend. it's just the information isn't flowing. Like it's regardless of it's public information that's being posted on the website and around town and kiosks and so forth. That's one thing. But I think also within this creating of a plan, the internal communications between committees and with the select board is also very important.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that's a good point. I mean, and what would you suggest, Nita? Just something as simple as an email, like if the select board flags an issue that a particular committee might be interested in, send out a quick email?
No, I think there needs to be an actual process. Like, I think based on the, communications committee can create it, a communication plan, and it needs to be something that's a document that has been, reviewed and worked through by our committee, and then received its approval, and an official document, not just, we'll send an email. I think those things are great, but that often gets pushed aside, and somebody joins the committee later on and doesn't know the process. So I think it's very important that we have a documented process of how this communication gets distributed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I agree. Standard operating procedure for, even future committees when new people are coming in. Yep. No,
absolutely.
Yeah, that is definitely an ongoing agenda item for us. I think the survey, is hopefully will give us some relevant information from, the perspective of our residents and business owners. But I think the overarching charge of this committee is to come up with that comprehensive communications plan.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that we can continue to work through. And I think that's a really good point about internal communications and trying to get a mandate in place that, if the select board knows that there's, an issue coming up that requires the input from, why do we have these committees, these specialized committees? This is what people are doing, supposed to be meeting with every couple of weeks. So their input's obviously very valuable. So I think that's great. And, I guess even just as an example, last night, I think one of the issues that came up with the mask requirement is that, there was a lot of competing representations of, Exeter businesses think this, Exeter businesses think that, and then you have people, speaking on behalf of Exeter businesses. It's like, well, were they ever polled? Were they ever asked? Were they given an opportunity? Is there some kind of, business trade group? Is there some? Is all of their perspectives kind of funneled through one voice?
Mm-hmm.
And were they given an opportunity to kind of weigh in on this? Because obviously the mask mandate is all about protecting our local businesses because it centers around Water Street and our commercial district. So, I don't know the lead up to this. I think, as Selectman Brown was saying, this is a rapidly evolving situation. It's a public health crisis. You're trying to do things with some speed, with some urgency, but then also, are you getting all of the input, even if that happens to slow the process down?
Yeah, Connor, I think that's an amazing point. That's because I know it's been brought up a few times that comments that involve that reference news or studies include citations, and that's sort of on a macro scale. It never occurred to me before that we have all that capacity at the local scale, and it's definitely a really astute observation that there's no reason why we can't provide quantitative local data and why we shouldn't, because the last night did, a fair amount of the weeds that we got stuck in was just conjecture. Lots of conjecture going around, and there really is no need for that. And I know Darren mentioned 900 businesses. Well, 900 definitely constitutes a quantitative opportunity, right? And then with all of our tech skills, we can have the qualitative in there too. But we could and should be having data-driven discussions at the local level, and communications can definitely drive that. I had never thought about it that way, that we could literally lead the way in, helping everyone communicate about things so that we're not saying people say or here's a sentiment. It's just really irresponsible, especially right now when emotions are so high and data's pretty real, So thanks for bringing that up. I really hadn't, just never occurred to me that data works at home too.
Well, and we see how easy, I don't want to say it easy, you make it look easy, Bob, but Bob, put together that survey in a fairly short period of time. So if there are, surveys that we should send out to relevant stakeholders in real time as the select board is considering issues, even urgent issues, then, that probably is something that our committee could be helpful with. And Selectman Brown, I want to make sure that the select board knows that we have a very active and robust committee here that is, more than willing to help with these issues. I know we're kind of a fledgling committee. We're not well known yet in town, and, we're new. But, we're certainly willing to help with those issues if it can be helpful in the future, even if it can be helpful now. With the mask ordinance. I know you're taking that issue up next week, so it's coming sooner rather than later. We may not have the time to put something together for that, but in future cases. I guess we're a little all over the map, but maybe just because I know Nina hasn't seen it and I know Selectman Brown hasn't seen it. Bob, are you able to share your screen and we could just run through the current survey, the resident survey now? Perfect.
Yeah, so it's still very much in a draft form. That that's why there's no branding on here or anything like that. And move the Zoom controls here so I can actually click it. So I have this is what it looks like when I'm editing it. So I can add questions and stuff relatively easily. This is what it will look like. I think I need to change the sections around, obviously, but. For the most part, basic information there. The demographic stuff I took into account some of what Selectman Brown had mentioned about those psychographics and Nina as well with some of the questions she sent over, because it does maybe that's more what we care about is like how what are they in relation to the town rather than just some basic demographics. So, where do you live? Exeter, Seacoast, New Hampshire, outside New Hampshire, or how long have you lived in town? Did you grow up here and attend the schools? And, because I think that's going to give us information about, if they're new to town, maybe we, like I mentioned previously, maybe there's like a new to town packet or something that we can give out, or, something like that. How are we doing section, kind of rating the quality of overall and of different departments on, communication, keeping it simple with a 1 to 3 like quality scale. I need to put in there what 3 is good or 1 is bad, that sort of thing. So I have to edit that in, but it has all the departments there. We could add on committees, the same exact question, if you wanted to do that as well. Yeah, like what kind of?
Could we have a separate survey that we would give to committees? Maybe.
Oh yeah, and this is for the public. So
okay.
And that was step 1. So like there was the analysis of communications internally, or it was kind of like a self-evaluation with what was done with the UNH fellow. That we could do something as well for. One of these for staff and one of them for committees to compare, the data and have different but similar questions, because it might be interesting to see like what I think is the perception that was in the other survey was the perception that departments are doing great, but other departments need to do better. So comparing that data to how residents feel about each of the departments. And committees and all of that. So yeah, we could definitely look at doing other surveys. I think this is the first step, because the residents are the ones who are the customers in the transaction. So they're the most important, I would say.
Yeah.
which platforms do you use to obtain town information? This was one of your questions, I think, Nina. The website, social media accounts, newsletter, our phone app. I think there's some things we're maybe missing in there, things that I'm not thinking of, just pops into my head. And maybe we don't want to get this granular, is a lot of people get their info from the Exeter, New Hampshire Community Forum, whether that's right or wrong, for, all things town or, stuff like that. So thinking of other things that we're missing in here that we want to gauge as communication things, whether they're official town things or not.
Well, I'm sorry, Bob. I would add that in there. I would absolutely add that in there. I'm not on that forum. I'm not really a Facebook guy, but I mean, does the committee think that would be helpful? Now, I understand that's a public forum. We're not regulating that in any sense. Right. But if people are on there getting information, it might be helpful.
Yeah. And it's an interesting use of the word public forum. I don't know if it sort of is, but it's a private forum managed by one person. There's a one-person gatekeeper on that, just to put that out there, and it has no affiliation with the town of Exeter. So a lot of people get that confused. So
it's very popular.
To stress that, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, consider that done. That's in there. That was kind of like the. And I kind of maybe to split this up into two sections, because it's kind of right now it's how are we doing? There's a couple questions about that are really, there's only a few. And then it's, what are you using? So, maybe this question needs to actually go down here in the what do you use section. Some of the questions aren't organized right now. So, how do you currently receive town information? This should probably be a checkbox rather than multiple choice. So people can click more than one, and these, I think these are some of Nina's questions that I put in. And, it's up to you guys to how, there's a lot of good questions that I see in here, but I see some of them can be tangents, and then how far do we want to go off on the tangents? Because public meetings, that's a huge thing about communication. And I would say Exeter is amazing with public meetings because they're all broadcast, streamed, on demand, and there's, as many of you know, there's many committees, and there's much discussion. For better or worse. But how much of that do we want to focus on with the survey? This is did you ever go to a meeting? If not, why? And I think that's good. We'll find out. My guess from filming these meetings over the years, most people do not go to these meetings. Most people probably don't watch the meetings. So that maybe that's been the main way of communicating for a long time, and maybe it shouldn't be. Do you watch Exeter TV? I like these questions. If there are more questions about the TV stuff, I would, like that. I started putting some of them in. So again, it's the, how are we doing? What do you use to communicate with the town, but also just in general, maybe we need some more questions about that. And then what would you like to see? What platforms should the town use more? What's your preferred method of communication? And then just some closing suggestions. So maybe some more questions and what would you like to see, and what kind of communication do you use in general? And then maybe we can put in some more open-ended questions here and there. But I think right now it's it's not too long. It would take people a very short amount of time to do this, but I would encourage maybe slightly more questions, because I know the longer it is, the more the less likely maybe people will want to take the time to do it. But if we can get that important data and do one big push, it might be better than doing multiple smaller surveys to the public. So.
Bob, can we get can you email us the link, not to edit it necessarily, but so
I can email you the preview link, which is the other view, and that way you can't necessarily edit it, but you can take notes and stuff like that on what you see. And I think I made it so right now nothing's required, so you can just like flip through all the pages. But like when we do it and actually roll it out, there will be, sorry, I heard some noises over there. There will be required questions. And that's another thing where it's like, what do we want required? What don't we want required? Because some people may want to just skip a whole section, but do we want them to be able to?
Okay. Yeah, it may help with our response rate if we allow people to skip through, because people are just like, I don't care about that part. Even if it's something that we want to know, I don't want people to think like, all right, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to scrap the whole thing. It might be better to just allow people, have it really customizable for people if they have a strong opinion about something, but not others. Yeah, I'm not sure. But it's all very interesting. Did anyone have any thoughts, any impressions right now? We can obviously all look at it if Bob sends the link around.
I think
it looks nice. Yeah. I was just going to say it looks really nice and well laid out, and yeah.
Appreciate the sensitivity to the drop off, keeping it short, like the numbering, like 4 of 7, 6 of 7, so you know where you're going. But yeah, the open ended. As much as we can lump that into one, somewhere, whether it's at the end or the beginning. The beginning might be an interesting place to say, basically, because so many times a study will play its hand in saying, I want to know this, I want to know this, I want to know this, but asking who they are, establishing, okay, you are a target group by just naming yourself, giving an address or something, and then a little blurb spot of, tell us what's important to you. This might be an interesting way to turn it and get what's most important to the person first, and then get all the other stuff.
Right.
Otherwise, you end up with text boxes everywhere.
Yeah, we could definitely play around with moving those around. And I know in a lot of surveys that I see and that I have done as well in the past, at the bottom of a section where it's a lot of multiple choice checkbox, there's always like a, did we miss anything? And that would definitely be an optional question, because maybe, people don't want to take the time to fill it in. But I think those are, while we may not, we'll eventually look at all of people's responses, I would think. But it may take some time. It's just good because we will, with all the questions we put on there, it's our lens of what we're seeing, and we might miss something. So I think those open-ended things are important, even though it may take people some time to fill them out. But they're optional, so they can just blow by if they don't want to.
It's one interesting. I appreciate that. Then it'd be interesting to have a pre and post. I've never seen this before, but like so you have somebody who's approaching this survey with an agenda, where they've got a clear thing they want to get off their chest, and they'll be using all the checkboxes to like profile the way they want this survey to go, versus if you diffuse at the beginning with what would you like to, what's the most pressing issue for you, or say your thing, what's your dog in the fight, and then at the end, anything we left out to sort of bookend with, sort of leaves it for the quantitative piece, gets handled by the majority of people, and then either folks with an agenda in filling it out, or people who just, it's almost like a journaling exercise of, here's how I felt at the beginning of the survey, here's how I felt at the end. So I've never seen that approach used, but just sort of.
Yeah, and I think that would be very interesting as well, and that's another way we can potentially take it, because what we haven't done in this survey too much, and I think some of Nina's questions were touching this topic of because you could, in the way that polls are used in a lot of webinars or something, like, hey, did you know, like, which things do we actually have? And then the next question is well, we actually have all of this stuff. We don't have the things you clicked on. So it's maybe like that. I don't know if we necessarily want to do that, as use the survey as a awareness tool about all the stuff we have. I mean, some of the questions already do that. When they see what do they use for communication and they see the My Exeter NH mobile app, they're going to be like, I have no idea what that is. I didn't know the town had one. So in a way, maybe, if they said at the first question, I really wish there was a town mobile app, because that would be so much easier than the website. And then they get to the question, where we already have one, and then by the end of the survey they've learned something. So that could be an interesting way to put those open-ended ones front and back.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. So maybe we can add those in, Bob. The two open-ended sections to bookend the survey. And then people are, I guess, are you putting a text, like a word limit, or is it people can write a 5-paragraph essay if they want?
There's two options. There's like a short answer and a paragraph. I'm not exactly. I think the long answer text for the paragraph, I don't know if it has a limit. The short answer does.
Okay. What's the word limit on the short answer?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Okay.
All right. Maybe that can help us determine. I mean, if it's too short and people do have more to say, maybe that is limiting. But
it's possible there is no limit, and it just the prompt says short answer or long answer.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
kind of like telling the person, like, hey, this is supposed to be a shorter question, but I can look into that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that could be helpful. Good. Okay. So yeah, I think we can add those two questions in. Should we get more into the weeds on the Exeter TV question and the public forum, public meetings question? Or is that what we have kind of sufficient?
Other topics that I don't think we touched on, and I don't know if it's the place in this, is, do you think there should be either, positions to do this, or, parts of budgets to do communication or anything like that? I don't know if that's, really the discussion. I know it can, you probably don't want to, it might be a bad idea to ask those questions, as it may discourage people from saying, like, I want this, because then I want this, but it costs money, sort of thing. So depends on if you're interested in weighing those things. Just an interesting food for thought there.
Yeah, well, I mean, our recommendation based on the survey to the select board could include, whether it's wishful thinking or not. I mean, it could include, like, we would recommend having a public communications czar, municipal communications PR person, on salary, on staff, whether it's a full-time or part-time designation. Maybe that would be helpful for the town. I mean, I think in large part that's what we're doing, and we're not being paid to do it. But maybe maybe that could be helpful. I don't know how exactly you'd word the question. Go ahead, Nina.
I would shy away from any budget question in a general, public survey. Basically, just keeping in mind what the end result we'd like to see with this, like what information are we trying to gather. And I think once we have that information, and then as a committee presenting that to the select board down the line, saying, like, hey, based on this and based on this feedback and this data that we've collected, we suggest a position be created, or something like that. But yeah, I would just shy away from, I think if you get into the budgets and then people's mindsets sort of change, and that's more money and that's higher taxes and yada yada, you could go on and on. So that would be just my suggestion for that kind of question.
Yeah, so maybe shy away from that for now, but keep it in mind.
I think it's a good, definitely thought thinking, like, yeah, this is an important role, and this is something that could potentially really be beneficial if there was a full-time position or part-time position. But I would just suggest keeping it out of this survey.
I have a comment that's just a little bit more in the weeds. Something that Bob had said at the beginning of the meeting was thinking about, and Nina as well, about prioritizing which. We have so many entities that need to communicate more timely information or alert type things. And so I kept thinking about a ticker or a crawl on the screen of TV, or a ticker on the site. And again, I know this is very tactical, so I've been trying to inject it at a point that's relevant, but I wonder if it might be valid to ask people how would you like to receive alerts or like last minute? So this, getting a sense of I wanted to, in the survey, I thought about asking, what other things do you watch? But again, towards this agenda of how far can we push our existing media channels for synchronous, for real-time updates? Again, it's sort of a tactical comment that I'm not sure if it's relevant for this, but just, things that were said in the beginning of the meeting really just keep following me through. Might be, anyway, food for thought.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And there's definitely options, right, Bob, too, with like a website, like even if it's, like a Twitter feed or something on the side. Not, I know the town doesn't have a Twitter account, but something that you could utilize tools that are already there and then populate them into the site somehow.
Yeah, and I mean, with the mobile app as well, there's a bunch of ways to do it already. It pulls in 2 Facebook accounts from the town main page and the TV page. So like there should be a section on there that it has everything. It pulls in anything that's published as latest news on the website, goes onto this like feed that's updated, as well as you could just put stuff on the feed. But there's a lot of creative ways to get out information on the video side of things as well. With but it's very hard to do with being, I think, fair and equal and making sure that we treat topics equally, even though maybe one may be more newsworthy. Is it our role to pick what's newsworthy and get that out? Because people can't watch a whole 4-hour meeting. But if we were to, like, a lot of people probably would have wanted to have snippets of the mask, like when the mask ordinance was talked about at previous meetings, rather than listening to the whole thing. But if we like lifted those comments alone and like did, hey, they're going to be talking about this at the next meeting, here's what they said the last meeting, that becomes very political, I think. So that's where public access stations that aren't owned by towns, they do that. They cut up meetings to highlight the main parts of the meeting, but that's not necessarily our role as because we publish the whole meeting. So if we were to highlight things, it's who determines what is highlighted, I guess.
Mm-hmm. You get the big bucks, Bob.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. And I know if you go to the Exeter town website, there's the website itself, and then there's a pretty obvious red bar running across the top of the page, which says COVID-19 information or COVID-19 updates. So for people who are interested in COVID specific information, which is all the rage, these days, they can go there. And I guess what the conversation we're having is like, is it worth for like a mask requirement ordinance that's being considered, that's imminent and is being considered, is it worth it for some period of time to have a second red bar that says mask requirement ordinance? So that if people go to the town website, they can say, what's that? I don't know how often people are perusing the website, but you never know. I go on actually quite frequently. And I don't know. But then again, as Bob was saying, that, then someone has to be policing how information is selected and how it's prioritized, which might seem unfair to less juicy headlines, so to speak. So I think that's, something we can think a little more about.
Yeah, I'd say right now, with the current, setup of how things are, if the select board wants to highlight some stuff, the select board could definitely, send us a message and say, we want this highlighted. So I think that's their role to direct the narrative of the town voice, if you will, a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So were there any other thoughts? I mean, I have a few, and we can try to end the meeting with at the top of the hour. and I can kind of give some summarizing thoughts, and maybe we can set another meeting. But were there any other thoughts on anything we've discussed? Or?
I just have some things that I'd like people to think about for the next meeting about the rollout of the survey.
Yep. Okay.
Right now, I'm currently working on like a report for the statewide organization of these TV stations as I did their survey. And, I was in charge of rolling that out and getting people to participate. And we had 3 $100 gift cards as bait for people to go and do this. And it's still with, emailing, calling, follow up, like direct contact of people who we wanted to fill it out. It was very difficult to get response. So I would think about how can we get this out there. I know it's really difficult with, COVID. We're probably not going to have someone standing on the street, saying, hey, will you fill out this survey real quick on an iPad or something because, sanitary reasons and stuff like that. But, maybe there could be some sort of raffle prize for people who get entered, or there has to be some incentive. There's obviously incentive of helping the town, but I think we need a little more than that. Wouldn't hurt. So think of creative ways we can get that out on different channels, and maybe specific targeting of stakeholders that you want their opinions of, and they can spread it around with their people as well. So.
Yeah, and it might be helpful to establish a point of contact. His first name was Darren, and I couldn't catch his last name. Selectman Brown, maybe you remember. I think he was, some kind of spokesperson for a business trade group in town. He said he had access to 900 businesses.
That's the economic development director, Darren Wenham. He's a town employee.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, it might be great to establish a point of contact with him and just say, hey, you must have a listserv of all the local businesses. Can you send out a blast?
That's through me. We've set up a MailChimp he managed to get emails for like 15,000 businesses in Rockingham County. So we send out emails to Exeter. We do, the Portsmouth Economic Development Director works with me and Darren to send out emails to Portsmouth businesses, and the RPC, the Rockingham Planning Commission, also works with me and Darren to send out to like 9,000 Rockingham County businesses. So all these COVID-19 updates and letting people know the deadline is Friday for PPE, get in your application and stuff like that. So, which I can say I don't know, it's from those emails, but Exeter got over $5 million in Gopher funds to, I forget how many businesses, but maybe some of them wouldn't have known if we didn't get those emails out. So we've been doing that since pretty much day one with all this stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That is highly, highly useful information. Thank you, Bob. That's excellent. I mean, we could just start there. That could hopefully give us some great information. And then as far as, distributing it to the public at large, definitely utilizing social media, definitely posting it on the website, definitely having the select board announce it maybe over the course of several meetings, just as a reminder to the public. There's a communication survey out there, posting it on, in front of the IOCA, on the message board in front of the town. What's that?
The IOCA, what do you call that? Is no longer there.
The marquee is gone.
The marquee's gone, yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. Maybe if we can coordinate with local businesses, if they wouldn't mind, I know like when you walk into the Sea Dog, and I'm not pointing out Sea Dog, I just know that they do this. They have like announcements pinned to the front host stand when you first walk into the restaurant. I know that's a very high traffic restaurant. So that could be, if someone's standing there waiting for a table, they might just happen to see, oh, interesting, there's a link here. I could take a few minutes to do this. So I'd be happy to help with that, go around contacting local businesses. Hey, we think we have this, project, this town project, it would be very helpful for you to help advertise it for us. Just trying to think of any other, methods. I mean, just try to get it out there. I know, we had mentioned utilizing the polling stations during elections. I don't think that's going to happen nowadays. It seems pretty dicey. Just listening to the town moderator's presentations on the polling stations, it seems like it's going to be hectic enough. Although maybe it could, maybe we could just post a sign, a board, just reminding people that, I don't know if we'll have the survey completed by the primary elections, but maybe before the general. Just having a sign, it doesn't mean we are there in person handing out flyers, but just having a sign posted.
Yeah, I think that would be, a great idea. It's going to be a lot of high traffic through there, even with all the absentees. So, something to look into. I mean, I don't think Exeter would do it because of our size, but, smaller communities would just mail something to every single resident, like, hey, do this, survey. Right. I don't know if that's something there's money to do. I know in Rye, as an Exeter resident or a Rye resident, they actually sent out, the absentee ballot request forms to everyone in Rye and the information on how to do that. So I don't think we do stuff like that currently, like mailers, just because of this. We're a lot bigger town, so, more expensive, but something to think about.
Right. Maybe it's something that we could consider later on if we're feeling that the response rate is really low and we're just not getting the information that we need. We could appeal to the select board and see if they can move some money around. I don't know how all that works, but maybe we could take kind of a phased approach, launch it, give people 30 days to respond. If we're just not getting the data points we need, push it out, give people another 30 days or give people 60 or 90 days initially to fill out the survey. Something like that. Give a kind of a rolling time period where, okay, we feel like we have enough data, we can finally shut it off, but it may take several months to get the responses back. Okay. Did you have anything else, Bob, just on that, on rolling it out?
No, I mean, I had something for other business, but I'll let you guys bring stuff up first if you have something.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to just quickly summarize. I really like kind of the idea of this. It's almost like a 4-pronged approach to our trying to get the data points we need to put a comprehensive communications plan into place. I obviously like the idea of surveying the public, our local residents and residents of other towns. Then I also really like the idea of surveying individual departments and getting the, who, what, where, when, why. Who do you designate personnel to distribute announcements and information? What information do you distribute? How do you distribute it? When? What is the timeline of distribution? Why? Why are you distributing it or not distributing it? I really like the third prong would be hearing from the boards and committees, all of the municipal boards and committees. How do you feel about, internal communications within town government? And do you feel that, that we could be doing a better job roping you in on issues that are more specialized that you deal with? And then maybe the last prong is just, hearing from or having a conversation with the select board about, can we be helpful in future initiatives with getting out there and creating a survey or creating an announcement to relevant stakeholders on these issues, so that we can get people to the table and we can get people's public comments when you feel that it's necessary. So I kind of like that 4-pronged approach. I think we can obviously think more about it. Maybe there's more prongs, maybe there's less, but I think getting from the public, getting from the municipal departments, employees, then getting from the volunteer boards and committees, and then just hearing maybe last from the select board itself. I actually really like that, and that could help, as Nina was saying, putting together standard operating procedures, like this is what we think is best, how to get, what we do now and how to get communications out to the right people in a timely manner. I think that's great. I really think this is coming into full focus. I think this is really great. So did anyone have any other final reflections? I don't have any other business, but Bob does, so I can turn it over to him. I don't know if Nina or Selectman Brown, if you had.
I just wanted to ask that if Bob could just send out to all the committee members the survey, and then we can make our notes on the side, and then maybe we have it in place that everybody needs to make their comments by next meeting, and then so that we can keep it going. And because it sounds like we're pretty good far along, so if we could, sounds like almost maybe we could even get it out in the next, maybe in October or so, if we have, beginning of October, depending on everyone's time and Bob's time. So I know this takes a lot of time, so thank you.
Yeah, it's going to depend on you, Bob, because you're doing a lot of the legwork putting it together. But if that seems like a reasonable timeline for everyone here, that works for me. I'd love to roll it out sooner rather than later. The only other thing I would ask, maybe Selectman Brown, just as a point of order, I'm assuming this survey, once it's completed, we should probably present it to the select board at maybe a meeting in September. I'd be happy to do that with Bob, or just have Bob do it, or just have me do it. We can present it to the select board so that they can approve it before we send it. I'm assuming we're not going to send anything out without the select board's blessing.
That's probably wise. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's fine. So once we have a finalized draft, I'm happy to give an update to the select board. They may like to just hear from us anyway. They put this committee together, and then I don't think have really heard much from us since. So I'm happy to give them a kind of a more of an update. Okay, great. Well, this has been a really great discussion, and just before we close, I want to make sure we get to some other business.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to bring up just briefly, if you guys haven't, or if anyone is watching this on TV right now, or on Facebook or YouTube, we do have a mobile app, My Exeter NH. You can find it in the Google or Apple Play stores. Feel free to take a look at it. I would definitely encourage the committee members to download it and take a look at it. I'm going to be looking into how we could offer and administer a business directory theoretically through the app. So it's free for us to do in the app. It's probably not going to look great on my just showing my phone, but this is what another town, or My South San Francisco app. So they have all the different categories there, and then you can scroll through to look at businesses and everything. Yes. And our thinking with the initial talks, it's still not sure we're going to do it or not, but it could be a nice feature to offer a nice service that it shouldn't really cost us anything to do this. And if it's just the setup for it, and how we're going to administer it, but basically it'd be free to Exeter businesses, and it could be a one-stop shop for people to post their stuff. Businesses, after claiming their business, could update their own information, hours, and everything like that, and it would be done in a fair and equitable way that any person can just submit an application to be on here and get on there, as long as their address is in Exeter for their business. And especially in these difficult times, people are wondering what's open, all that stuff, and some people don't have their own websites and various other things. So I wish we had this in place when it all first happened, because it was really unsure, like, oh, is this restaurant offering takeout or dine in, like what's there? So this could be the whole town's businesses in one spot, and this also can be posted. The app module, like the business module, can get posted on a website as well, so someone could go on our town website and look at a business directory. It would really come down to the businesses themselves putting all this information on. So it's not going to be on us to do a whole lot, other than just setting up the module and occasionally populating it with the info that people submit. But in the past, we had several, I would say, private businesses featured on our website that did sort of services like that. And we removed those from our site because we found that it maybe wasn't quite fair that certain businesses were featured on the town website and others weren't. And it's too hard for us to keep up that info. So this would be a way that businesses could do it themselves. So if you're interested in checking out the other app, it's just My SSF, My South San Francisco, is one of the many that use this My Civic, which is now a Tyler Technologies company. So, might get some ideas. And there's also an app that looks like a white M over orange, and it's just the My Civic app. It's like their generic app. And in there you can, I don't know if you can see it, but you can hit switch city, and you can look at all the different cities that use it, or they have a lot of, fake apps that are just demo apps, and you can go in and look at what the app can do in a lot of the communities. So it'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are on that compared to what we do and stuff like that.
Great. No, that would be great. I'm sure businesses would be thrilled, honestly, if we were able to roll something like that out. I'm sure many, if not all, would take advantage of it. So that would be great. Okay, excellent. Did you have anything else, Bob? Was that okay? Perfect. All right. Well, I will, unless there was anything else from the board, I can entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Probably from Nina.
I'll second.
We're a committee of two. All right. And I'm assuming we probably don't need a vote to adjourn the meeting. We can just adjourn. So excellent. This was a great discussion this morning. I hope you all stay well. I should probably try to set a date for the next meeting. Should we? I'm just trying to look at my calendar here.
2 weeks would be the Tuesday, the 8th, which is election day, I believe. So
that probably is a no go. The week after, Tuesday, September 15th.
That looks good for me.
I can send out an email to everyone and people can think about it. And if that works for people, then I can send an agenda to Pam.
Okay.
All right. Does that sound okay for you, Nina, just at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. And Selectman Brown, does that work for you? Or? Okay, good. All right. Well, everyone, I can send out a follow-up